based on what's happening here in Australia, they could do with some improving of education around vaping. So we're all about setting up the real facts, encouraging people to join and be part of it. Because one thing that I did learn in my journey of over 8 years of vaping, both here in Australia and networking with others around the world, is that sense of community. That sense of community and being able to exchange your opinions and thoughts and ideas and how you're able to find the right flavor, find the right device, find the right information to help keep you smoke free has been central.
Hello, world. Welcome to the Vaping Unplugged podcast. Everything you need to know about vaping and tobacco harm reduction.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Michael from the World Vapers Alliance with another episode of Vaping Unplugged. Today we have a deep dive into the harm reduction situation in Australia. Our guest is Pippa Starr from the A.L.I.V.E movement, and this stands for Australia Let's Improve Vaping Education. As you will hear, that is very much needed, where in Australia the black market took over the harm reduction space, and people will get into the dire situations vapers are currently facing, fire bombings, and how vaping saved her own life. So enjoy the episode and vape on. Hello and welcome on Vaping Unplugged, Pippa. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. As usual, let's start a little bit with your personal story. Who are you and why are you doing what you're doing? And how is it connected to harm reduction and vaping?
Sure, absolutely. Look, it's a long story, so I'll try and keep it short so we don't bore our viewers. But hello, hi all. I am Pippa Starr. I'm from down under here in Australia, in beautiful sunny Queensland. Approximately just over 8 years ago, I found myself at a crossroads. I had to negotiate with my doctor. I had to negotiate with my doctor on whether I was going to live or die, and I needed certain medications to keep me living. I did, and if I didn't quit smoking, I couldn't have the medications to keep me alive. So there was only one choice, was to quit smoking. Of course, I tried for the 50 millionth, billionth time to whatever, cold turkey, hypnosis, acupuncture, you name all the methods. Believe you me, I've tried them, from the books to the patches, the gums, the lozenges, and lots more, believe it or not. Of course, unsuccessfully. What do? At a high risk of a blood clot. Absolute high risk of a blood clot. My doctor kept on warning me, if I keep going, she just could not give me the medication to keep me alive any longer. Oh my God, thank God I found vaping just in time. I found vaping just in time. So, yeah, while blood pressure was up, thankfully I found vaping, and it prevented what could have been potentially a life-threatening blood clot. So, wow. I found vaping, and it literally only just took me about a week to work out the right device, the right flavors, all the stuff that you've got to sort of customize for yourself so you can understand how it is such a personal experience to work out what keeps you off the smokes. But yeah, I discovered that process in approximately about a week. Thankfully, to a friend and work colleague, I come across at an opportune time, who shared his experience with me with vaping. And yeah, it's just been onwards and upwards from there. I was one of those people who smoked over 30 years, who was never going to quit smoking, who just enjoyed smoking too much. So yeah, that's I guess the short version. I'm here to tell the story. I got obviously into the hobbyist side of e-liquid creation, which has been a massive passion for me over the last 8 years or so. And yeah, it's unfortunately something I can no longer do down here, and I'm down under here in Australia, because I can't even import the flavors, the same flavors they use in cakes and fudge and all that sort of thing. Very similar to what they use in e-liquid. Cannot even import those. So there goes that side of it. So here I am, replacing one passion for another, and getting. Look, I've always sort of been involved with advocacy at some level, but not at the deep dive
Mm.
level I have been in the last couple of years, in particular here in Australia. Yeah.
So you are so for you the term vaping saved my life is literally the true, and I'm happy to hear that. Maybe we get into the beautiful banner a little bit as well. What we see behind you, we see A.L.I.V.E. So what is that, and how is that connected to you?
Look, at the core of everything around vaping, and where things get a little bit muddled up, if you like, and misunderstood, and amongst our general public and understanding, and I think our constituents, or our politicians, is the lack of education. That's what I think it all boils down to. And once people understand the pros, the cons, and the pros, and a lot more pros, then I think things become a lot easier. So, without further ado, what is A.L.I.V.E? A.L.I.V.E is the most vibrant movement to have ever hit the earth. Did I ever sell that? No, seriously, it is. It is advocacy done in a brand new way. It is a movement rather than organisation. It meets vapors where they're at. It doesn't matter whether that vapor has 5 minutes a week to advocate, or 5 hours a week to advocate, or 50 hours for that matter. God help somebody who's doing 50 hours a week advocating, but yes, I have been guilty of that. It is a flexible movement, not necessarily a formal organisation that has a structure in the background to be able to uh, help vapors advocate, to be able to tell their stories, to be able to share their experiences, to help educate others, so in such a way that others, including and most importantly non-vapors and politicians, etc., can understand. So, as I said, the core of it is education. A.L.I.V.E is an acronym for Australia. Let's improve vaping education. And let's face it, based on what's happening here in Australia, they could do with some improving of education around vaping. So we're all about setting up the real facts, encouraging people to join and be part of it. Because one thing that I did learn in my journey of over 8 years of vaping, both here in Australia and networking with others around the world, is that sense of community. That sense of community, and being able to exchange your opinions and thoughts and ideas, and how you're able to find the right flavor, find the right device, find the right information to help keep you smoke free, has been central. So at A.L.I.V.E we have a wonderful community. We have a wonderful community, and yeah, we regularly meet up and do exactly that.
I mean, I
So
have
that's a
to
little bit about it.
yeah, it's so great. I love the words movement and community when it comes to vaping advocacy, because that's exactly what it is. It is a movement, consumer driven. And I also fully agree with you. When I meet politicians, most of the time it's not like what people expect, that all politicians hate vaping and want to ban everything. There are those people, yes, but the vast majority is just uninformed. And the same applies to journalists. So I think this focus on education and movement, I love it, and it's exactly the way I would approach advocacy for vaping as well. But on this very positive note, unfortunately, at some point we need to move to the less positive news or talking points when we think about Australia, because when nowadays, when we hear harm reduction or vaping and Australia, we see fire bombings, terrible regulation, people not able to get their needed devices or liquids. I'm not sure if we are at the stage of criminalization of consumers yet, but normally that would be the next step. So
Yeah.
let's start a little bit broader. And what would you say is the main problem in Australia at the moment, and how was it able that we got to this point?
Look, what we've got here in Australia is we've got some people who have been able to survive the area of lobbying the government from the old smoking days, the old anti-smoking days. Pretty much those similar people, or the people who have branched off and seen those people as mentors, have continued on to become reliant on a government-funded system that has helped them along to keep continuing with grants, etc. But what they haven't done in the process is they haven't shifted in their focus or their approach, and more importantly, their approach to how to counteract uh, the use of nicotine products. And really, at the same time, they've put all nicotine products together rather than separating vaping as a nicotine harm reduction uh, opportunity. They've really lobbed it in and treated with the same approach as it has been with big tobacco. Now, look, I understand big tobacco needed a great big spanking. You know, nobody likes the way big tobacco behaved. You know, they killed my grandmother and my grandfather, and you know, I'm sure we've all got a family member who's died too soon from smoking. But the approach down here, down under, towards vaping has been a complete blockout, from not listening to the consumers, not listening to experts who may have an opposing point of view and might have some extra evidence that may have come from elsewhere around the world, whether it be UK, USA, New Zealand, Canada, or wherever, to just maybe show a different point of view other than what is in this club, if you like. Some may call it a cabal within the Australian tobacco control air space. The sad thing is here down under is tobacco control is no longer controlled by these people or the government. The new tobacco control is now the black market. The black market now drive and operate and control, as we've seen with over nearly 120 firebombings since last year. They now drive, operate, and control just over 50% of the nicotine consumer product market here in Australia. If there's a country anywhere around the world thinking of following Australia, seeing them as a world leader by some sort of stretch of the imagination, just have a look a little bit closer and you'll see and you'll uncover very, very quickly that we're seeing nearly up to 300,000 smokers. We've just seen in a recent Roy Morgan survey here in Australia, up to 300,000 vapers have stopped vaping, and potentially up to that same amount, or at least close to, may have returned to smoking in the last year.
That's the situation is so, yeah, exactly, it's so crazy. I recently was in Germany on a panel with politician, and she claimed for vaping there would never emerge a black market, and Australia is the proof that that is utter BS.
Really?
But
Look, here's the thing. Our government has been warned, not in one, not in two, but in three major Senate inquiries under oath in our Parliament chambers. not only there, but countless amounts of times that a black market will happen if you keep going down this road. Now, they've been warned about this since basically about roughly circa 2014, 2015 and onwards. But here we are, getting worse and worse and worse, and now they've lost control. There is no,
Yeah.
as I said, the new tobacco control in Australia is the black market. It is organised crime. It is international criminals who are literally funding some of the worst imaginable things that happen on this earth that you don't want to know about. That are literally, it is a gateway to teen harms that are coming out of this. And this is a massive lesson here that we are seeing teens paid by these international crime syndicates massive amounts of money, well, at least for teens, to go and do their dirty work, to go and steal a car, to go and firebomb uh, a multitude of different premises. We're not talking about just tobacco shops being firebombed here in Australia. We're talking about people's homes. We're talking about people like there were 2 kids nearly burnt alive only a matter of weeks ago. This is a public health emergency. That is what is happening here down under here in Australia. And I'm not over exaggerating what this is right now. It is one of the, I just hope this goes down in history as one of the biggest lessons on never to bring back prohibition, because to have a gateway to teens being involved in crime as tobacco prices escalate, that they are thieving nearly every night of the week around Australia here, Michael. There is somebody thieving cigarettes at, with somebody at knife point, for God's sakes. You know, there every second or third day there's a firebombing or two, you know, where somebody's just been lucky to get away alive, which is really sad. There's been public executions. There's been executions of, of people around this in car parks. Why? Why are they fighting? They're fighting over a war for massive profits on tobacco, eye-watering taxes. Remember, we're the most expensive country in the world when it comes to tobacco prices. Forget buying a retail when you can, $60 a packet when you can buy it for $20 a packet in the black market. And vaping, well, you can't get it anywhere. So where else do you get it? You go to the black market. And only this week, a concerned parent from country Victoria here in Australia says, Pip, they've closed down our local tobacco shops here in regional Victoria. Our kids are now going to the crack dealer to get their vapes, and they are being offered a myriad of other things.
I mean,
So
that
that's
is
where
so.
we are with things here in Australia.
Yeah, and that is always the problem. What politicians seem not to understand. If you ban something, that doesn't make the demand go away. It's just somebody else will fulfill that demand, and obviously in that case, it's the black market. But maybe for a better understanding for the international community, maybe you can go into what it is. Is it like for a regular vapor at the moment, or better? I'm a smoker in Australia. I want to switch to vaping. How does it work? Where do I go? To the pharmacy,
Look,
to the doctor. There were some changes. Did it
okay.
improve anything? So, what's the daily life for let's say if you want to be a legal vapor at the beginning?
Right, you
Which
want to be
hurdles do you
not
need to
another.
take?
You want to legally vape. You don't want to break the law. You just want to keep on the straight and narrow. Let's keep this as simple as possible. You can go and try and have a consultation with your doctor up until new laws that just passed on the 1st of October. You can get a prescription and go and see a pharmacist. Except there was only a very couple of handfuls of doctors right around this huge land of ours to be able to find, and only a couple of handfuls of chemists that would even stock the vapes. In fact, I spoke to a few chemists today, and Nobody really participated in this activity because the couple of chemists I spoke to today were actually throwing stock in the bin. They were literally throwing vapes in the bin because they've been sitting there for a couple of years and nobody's bought them. Let's get back to it. What is a legal person who wants to quit smoking with vaping to do here in Australia? Look, you're going to find it very bloody hard. There's not many doctors that want to talk to you about it, and they might say, well, it's okay because only a couple of days ago, our great health minister made vapes available over the counter to purchase without a prescription from your local chemist up to 20 milligrams of nicotine, which for most people would probably do the job. Sounds easy, right? Except, to give you an idea, I rang 10 chemists today. Remember I said I was speaking to some chemists today? I spoke to 10 chemists today, the nearest 10 in my area, and only one had them in stock. But you know what they said? Oh, you need a prescription. You can't buy it over the counter. Doesn't matter what Mark Butler said. So, even they are not experienced. Chemists do not understand vaping. They are not like the vape shops we used to have here in Australia that unfortunately have been wiped out in July the 1st with the previous stage of laws. They're gone. They're dead. They're finished. Unfortunately, they're small businesses that have normally got loans based on equity of their own homes and their own small investments, and a lot of them have just gone bankrupt and to the wall. It's really, really extremely sad what's happening. So how does that help an everyday vapor smoker here in Australia to switch to vaping? The short answer is there's only one path, and that's why the black market are winning. They can go to a black market tobacconist shop crack dealer now and say, hey, have you got a vape for me to try? And maybe try a mate's vape or buy it at the same time with a mate or something like that, and try one of these cheap Chinese, unregulated, untested vapes that God knows how many milligrams of nicotine they got in them, and hope for the best. That's where Australian smokers are now. That is no exaggeration. That is just the situation.
It's just sad, but with that, for the final few minutes, maybe we look a little bit in the future. My first question would be, realistically, where do you think the whole situation is going? And then as a second part, where do you wish the situation should go if it's different, and how consumers can help with that?
Sure, absolutely. Well, look, for one, I'd have to be absolutely insane to start off a little that thing, A.L.I.V.E. I'd be crazy to start up a movement here in Australia if I never thought that there was any hope. The hope does come from the consumer base that are left and remaining, 1.5 million approximately across Australia, be it if they're black market vapors or not. But the power is with the people. The basis of vaping in the first place, it was by the people, for the people. It was by, vaping didn't pop obviously out of thin air. And from big tobacco or big pharma or from a big government or a big quit industry. None of them could or would develop it. It was a consumer that had to develop it to make it mainstream, of course, thanks to Honlick in 2003. Now it's up to us here in Australia on a more positive approach. The more draconian, the more ridiculous, the more insane, the more billions and billions of dollars that get transferred into the black market here, the worse it gets. The bigger and badder, the worse it gets. The bigger and badder it's going to fall over. Prohibition does not have great history in Bhutan was a great example of where they tried to cancel out smoking. Bhutan fell over during COVID. Let's go back in history, all the way back to the prohibition of alcohol, where you actually needed a prescription to get alcohol, as Winston Churchill once famously did. It fell over. There was more crime and more harm being done to people than what it was worth. The more draconian, the more they step into people's lives, um, the more they don't sensibly, risk proportionately regulate. The sooner they can do that, the better. Let's just keep in mind that anyone in Australia, if you want to take up smoking, go for it. I can go to 20 places within 3 minutes of where I am right now. 20 places within 3 minutes on foot. I can buy whatever cigarettes I want to kill me. And I'm probably talking about maybe 3 or 4 of them at least being black market. So they're not hard to get a $15 to $20 packet of cigarettes to kill me. But, I'd have to go to one of those black market tobacconists and maybe hope to be able to get a vape. But the problem is also now, is because of the extra laws that have come in, that they're making vapes more expensive and more difficult to buy. Normally around about $50 or $60 for something that's a cost price out of China from $2 to $4. So that's insane. Anyway, let's keep it positive. This is seriously, it's got to fall over. We at A.L.I.V.E, we want to point out the failures of this government because clearly there are many. We are here to educate the public about those failures and how they've failed and how we can avoid failing again. How we can, here in Australia, seriously, not pretend, but seriously, be world leaders maybe once again. Because quite frankly, in the last 5 years, we've seen the UK, we've seen Canada, the USA, and New Zealand take over Australia as far as winning the race to the bottom on the smoking rates path. They took us over, we were ahead. I think that speaks volumes for where we're at. But I think, as I say, this has got to fall over. It's only a matter of time. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, I hope I'm wrong. Something drastic will have to happen during the current government for this to fall over, but I think, and we've already got a promise from the next government that they will regulate this a lot more sensibly. But meanwhile, our job is to educate and annihilate the anti-vaping, very wealthy quid industry that coincidentally just happens to get about $500 million a year out of our federal government.
Yeah, and thank you so much for doing that. It's very important. Maybe as a final sentence, tell us where we can find you, where we can find A.L.I.V.E. Where is it best to go to?
Absolutely. Look, speaking of podcasts, please make sure wherever you are, I'll just do his dirty work for him because I'll feel bad before I plug mine. Make sure you follow these guys, World Vaping Alliance and Vaping Podcast. They do awesome stuff. I've been watching them for quite a few years, being really active in this space on an international level and networking. It's absolutely awesome. You can follow what I do at A.L.I.V.E Advocacy Movement.com. I know it's a mouthful. There's a QR code behind me, but I don't know if you can get there. But we're also on all the social medias you can think of. Okay, we're on all of those. Look, we also do our own podcast as well. So go and check that out on Spotify called Staying Alive. And that's what it's all about. So go and check out that as well over on the Spotify. Yeah. And you can feel welcome to reach out to us, ask questions, be a part of and join the community. We're not as intense as what you may have seen me talk today. We're a little bit more laid back. We're a little bit more like your average Aussie you would expect. And we're real people, and we're a great support network. So yeah, feel welcome to join us now, as
We
hundreds and hundreds have gotten on board around Australia very, very fast.
No, we will definitely link their website in the show notes. I think nowadays you have to say, and
Right?
obviously I highly recommend everyone to follow People's personal Twitter account as well. A mixture of education and sometimes a bit of entertainment or sad news from Australia, but highly recommended. Pippa, thank you so much for joining us. It was a great pleasure. Thank you for all your insights and even more for all your work you do in Australia. It's highly needed, but also seen on the international level. So thank you so much.
No, thank you, and thank you for everybody who fights for their right to remain smoke free, because it's really, really important, isn't it? Because no matter where we are in the world, we were there once, and we're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. We're fighting for those, not 1 billion anymore as it was 10 years ago, not 1.1 billion, in fact, 1.2 billion smokers on the planet, to have a chance to experience what we have, and so that they can have another day with a loved one. And that's why I do this.
Fantastic. Thank you again and take care. Bye bye.
Bye, thank you for having me.